Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, Shinrin Yoku, and Yurt Life, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Wednesday, October 11th, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time 2023. Another powerful earthquake strikes Afghanistan. Another 6.3, in fact, has triggered a landslide and sent 100 plus people to the hospital. And that's not all we're looking at. Greenland, record ice gain over the last few days. The media is silent. Keep calm, it's boom time. Strong to severe storms with large hail, strong winds possible Wednesday into Thursday nights for Omaha, and there's more severe weather coming for the Gulf states. El Nino may be bringing extreme weather to the West Coast, according to models, and it also could deliver huge snowstorms to the east this winter. But what we're looking at, big winter chicken dinner, is snow in the west through the next few days. Take a look at this. This just goes out through the beginning of the weekend. So by Friday morning, heavy snow in Wyoming and the high country, even down into southern Colorado. Let's take a look at the full forecast. Gulf storm to bring heavy rain and thunderstorms to the southern U.S. Fall storm to impact the central U.S. A low pressure system moving across the Gulf of Mexico is expected to bring heavy rainfall, minor coastal flooding, and breezy conditions to parts of the central Gulf Coast into the southeast U.S. today and Thursday. The biggest totals look to be the Panhandle in southern Georgia, but we'll get to the full model in just a moment. A strong fall storm system will impact the central U.S. today through Friday, with areas of severe thunderstorms, excessive rainfall, high winds, critical fire weather, and snow in the high country. Let's take a look. There is that system in the Gulf right now that is going to be bringing insult to injury here Wednesday through Thursday. Take a look at that system there. As a system in the Pacific Northwest is going to be bringing snow to high elevations. That system in the south is going to make its way by Thursday morning through the Panhandle into Georgia and across, maybe even southern South Carolina, as well as southern Georgia could be picking up most of that moisture. Let's take a quick look at the total accumulated precipitation, and we'll show you what we're talking about there. You can see that band move across. Heaviest rain, southern Georgia through the Panhandle there, and out and away. And that's the whole time the system is going to be moving through the northern plains there. Let's take a look at that system and move it through there. It's going to be rapid. Here is Thursday, Friday into Saturday as it makes its way off the East Coast through the weekend. Now, we do have remnants of Hurricane Lydia now inland here, and it made landfall as a Cat 4, one of the most rapidly developing storms ever to hit Mexico. We're keeping a close eye on Tropical Storm Sean as the cone of depression is showing it turning its way towards the Leeward Islands and potentially towards the U.S. We also have disturbance number 1, which could also be accentuated and make its way in other models closer to the Lesser Antilles and to the south. So we're keeping a close eye on both of these storms as the tropical storm season is not over with. But we do have huge ice gains, record ice gains 2 days ago. We're talking 7 gigatons, 14 gigatons over the weekend, and now that's dropping off a little bit. But record ice is building on Greenland, and the mainstream would never, ever, infinity report on that. Shut up, Al. Get in your hole. That's Al Gore, by the way. I can't believe I even have to say that. Another powerful earthquake strikes Afghanistan after back-to-back 6.3s caused the death of over 2,000 people. A second, which is actually the third magnitude 6.3 earthquake, has triggered a landslide and sent 170 people to the hospital, and maybe some deaths that are not being recorded. The biggest quake today is a 6.3 west of Macquarie Island out in the mid-ocean ridge as the earth continues to grow. Now you know. 2.9 in Tennessee tops off the rare quakes. More mid-ocean ridge activity in the Greenland Sea at 4.4. And the quake in Afghanistan is now over. The most recent aftershock just a 4.5. Good news. Worldwide volcano news update. Liwotolo, Ibu, Kluchiskov, Dukono, Sabankaya, Swanosima, and many others, all puffing and passing to normal activity. Nothing spectacular to report on, which is good news for those that like their flesh still stuck to the bones. Campi Flegrei is also quieting down, which is good news because there are millions of people in this region, and we do not need a supervolcano to erupt anytime soon. The activity is now spaced out every 4 days. There is a small swarm. All activity has gone quiet, so to speak, but we're keeping a close eye on it because this event is not over. We're also keeping a close eye on the entire world, so let's bring you over to the whole country here in Iceland, where activity continues at all the major hotspots. Small flurry of seismic activities happening in the last 24 hours. Nothing of note, but significant nonetheless, and we're keeping a close eye on Iceland for your safety. Space Weather News update for October 12th. Low-level activity for days, and now we have a pretty significant rise up into the C2 range, where we're wondering if this could be some instability in some plasma filaments. There are no notable flares, only the M2.3 days ago, right there. The 3-day geomagnetic forecast is for all calm, except for potential instability due to that coronal hole, maybe in just a few hours. Hours of powers, and we're talking about the coronal hole here, 58, that is turned away. And that should couple with us any moment now and maybe elevate the solar wind up to geomagnetic instability at KP4. But currently, the geomagnetic overview is very quiet. That's why you saw some chemtrails today. Yeah, those are just persistent contrails due to increased cosmic rays. Has nothing to do with nefarious spraying, but that is for another podcast. Now, there was a sun-diving comet today that triggered a massive solar flare off the backside of the sun. Let's take a look. Watch that baby come in here. Boom! It hits the sun. And take a look at what happens on the other side. Yeah. This is the type of scenario we've been warning about for over a decade. At some point in the future, we're going to have hundreds of these sun-diving comets come in. And what will be the effect on the sun? Well, it could be very detrimental at the surface. Let's look again. Here's the comet, and it's coming in, and boom, it hits the sun, and there is the reaction. It's almost like physics. Conservation of energy. Here comes the energy, boom, hits it, and there's the release. So, in a scenario where dozens of these objects will be coming in at the same time, this is a Croids comet here. The resultant geomagnetic storm would be epic. So anytime we see fragmentary objects coming towards the sun, it's going to be a bad day on Earth. Stay tuned for more boom. Glass shards of an ancient volcanic eruption found in Antarctic ice 3,000 miles away. Now, nearly 2,000 years ago, when Rome was at its peak, a volcano erupted on New Zealand's North Island. With such violence, it was thought to have cast a pall over the empire's half a world away. And now it's confirmed. Scientists have now unearthed 6 glass shards traced to the heat of the explosion flung 5,000 kilometers south, where they lay buried beneath 280 meters of Antarctic ice for millennia. A 7th shard formed from an earlier eruption from the same volcano helped the team pinpoint their exact origins and helped confirm the timing of the explosive event. Combined, the 7 shards provide a unique and undeniable double fingerprint of the Topo volcano as the source, says environmental scientist Stephen Piva, the study's lead author and PhD candidate at Tel Haringa Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. The Topol volcano has been active for 300,000 years, but timing of its most recent major eruption, one of the largest and most energetic eruptions on Earth in the last 5,000 years, has been surprisingly hard to pin down, but they pinned it down. Historical records from ancient Rome and China describing events around 186 CE suggest a distant volcanic eruption clouded their skies half a world away. The sun rose red as blood and lacking light, and the heavens were ablaze, according to two scribes. Vivid as those descriptions might be, they don't quite line up with the geologic record. Now, sulfur deposits in ice cores are the usual signs of volcanic activity, and ice cores from Antarctica and Greenland narrowed the timing of the Topol eruption to 230 CE. And that corroborates exactly right here with this cooling period in the Holocene. So we were rising out of a major cooling dip here at the end of the Roman Warm, which ended the Empire of Rome, and we were rising out of it, and we stayed cold for 200 years. Thank you, Topol. And that is climate change. It's not you. It's not CO2. It's a major volcanic eruption. And good news on that front, because according to this article, climate change is costing the U.S. $16 million per hour, according to a new study. The only problem with that is a study in Norway coming out in the same day shows that the results imply that the effect of man-made CO2 emissions does not appear to be sufficiently strong to cause any systematic changes in the patterns of temperature fluctuations. Yes, they said it. Norway said it. There is no evidence of man-made global warming. Yet, climate change is costing us $16 million per hour? I do digress. Climate-related disasters are killing ever fewer people. Almost no deaths in modern times. If we just go back to the 1920s, there were over 500,000 people dying every year from climate change in the U.S. Today, the number is negligible, almost zero deaths. So there is that. And also the fact that weather damage is more costly, well, that has to do with inflation and the fact that they only show you the last 20 years on a graph. When if we actually look at the full data set, can you imagine the price per capita back in the 1920s? Yeah, it would be 1,000 times more than today. So it's all about context and cherry picking. And we know who the cherry pickers are. They're the money funders. Now, could a new law of physics support the idea we're living in a computer simulation? Well, the paper proves it. The second law of infodynamics and its implications for the simulated universe hypothesis. Why they didn't quote Doug Vogt in this is anyone's guess. He came up with the idea over 50 years ago, and, well, no one cares. That's basically the state of science. If you claim you're the first person to think of it, and no one checks the math, well, you win. And Doug Vogt is losing right now. You know who else is losing? The entire world and all of humanity. Did Hamas just call for a global jihad against enemies of Islam on Friday the 13th? Well, in case you didn't know, enemies of Islam is anyone that is any other religion but Islamic. And they did, in fact, call for jihad on Friday. And we told you all 10 years ago to get out of major cities, and it is all transpiring now. Major migrations, climate change, record high, record low, record flooding, and now World War III. We warned you, don't be scared, be prepared. And that's a boom to Friday, when global jihad comes to a city near you. Please share this video as we are shadow banned. Well, and the powers that be don't want you to get this information. They want you to self-immolate and blow up, because less people means less global warming gases. But they can kiss our asses. Please become a Patreon, support the work we do, watch all of our work commercial free in one place. Be safe. We love you. Be prepared, not scared. And that is a boom.